I was discussing this with functional medicine. She's actually a physician assistant earlier this week. Is that, our food, you already talked about glyphosate, and that's for listeners and viewers that don't know, that's what the active ingredient in Roundup, and that's been used for many decades to prevent weed growth in our foods. But our food is maybe different, genetically modified, and wheat is different than it used to be. I don't know the details of this. I've just been told this. Dr. Duke Johnson, he's a functional medicine doctor that's written a book on these subjects, and he was telling me about, the wheat germ or something is different than it used to be, and that's what we mount immune response to. And so, the food is actually different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, so to bring that back to the Europe thing, because it's like, why are these differences happening? So if I'm not mistaken, one of the things that actually happened there is in certain parts of Europe, it actually might be a whole different strain of wheat, so it might be slightly different. But the GMO thing's also a lot different in Europe. That was actually the first health topic I ever got into. I was 16 years old. I was not in the best place of my life or qualified to be talking about health per se. I was, as we talked about last time, I was kind of in a mental health thing, using drugs, unfortunately, but I started studying this stuff back then, believe it or not. And so Monsanto and the GMO crisis was the first thing I got into. And yeah, when you modify the genetic structure of a food, the idea that we couldn't be sensitive to it for that reason is ridiculous. Of course we could. And Europe not only has bans on this stuff in many of the countries, they at least require labeling, or their food is very minimally genetically modified. People don't get it in the USA. Like, we don't require labels on this stuff. It's certainly not banned. It's in a lot of foods that people consume on a regular basis. And we don't always get that other countries don't do this. I'm someone who loves the United States. I'm very thankful to be here because we can have conversations like this and get better even where we failed. But where we need to also acknowledge that, like, some people will just say, oh, it's the best thing ever. It's like, guys, there's like third world countries that don't allow GMOs. Literally, that's true. So we've really failed in the healthcare side. And we're getting better at that, I think. But that's something to consider too. I like that you brought up the GMO thing. So it matters. And that ties in with the glyphosate anyway, because a lot of this stuff, all of it's the same company. It's Monsanto that's under Bayer now. And so, they have these GMO foods so that they can spray it with the glyphosate. They're genetically modifying wheat so that it can survive glyphosate, so that we can sell it to you, even though it's a known carcinogen at this point.
Right. And, that even brings me back to, my background. My folks had a farm, and so we drank raw milk. And I'm not saying that from the safety perspective of masses of people that can work. But if you think about what happens in pasteurization of your milk and alone, I mean, it takes out bacteria that, it takes out a lot of nutrients that are things that aren't normally there, that has been changed over time, and I thought it was strange when I met Shawn that he had intolerances, and, I just drank raw milk. And so never had a problem, so there's changes to our food. I guess where I'm going with this is not just about raw milk. I'm just that those changes over time can make some big differences in how we are responding to what we're consuming.
Definitely. I agree. And I was telling Shawn the other day, we're lucky over here. We're one of the 11 states that allows you to sell raw milk directly in the store. So we don't even have to go to a farm. We can go up to this health food store over in my area, and they got gallons of raw milk. They got raw goat milk. It's really cool. And so they buy it from the farmers that are local, and then they just sell it in the store for convenience. So it's cool. You kind of support two places at once. But yeah, we've taken that away. And then the worst part is when we domesticate humans as we have, the issue is if you're not healthy and then you go out and do some of this raw stuff, those people really might get sick. Now, we were never supposed to get sick from it, most likely, but then they say, oh, look, no, this is bad. This is dangerous. It's like, well, if you never equip someone their entire life to be able to handle this stuff, yeah, you have a weakened immune system. That's the issue. So I'm not recommending this to people. This is just my personal thing. But I eat, actually, that smoothie that I was drinking before, this always has 4 raw eggs in it. So we get the pasture-raised ones right from the farm. It's all like the uncategorized stuff. So it's nice farm. And I use raw eggs in that. So I've probably eaten, if you count my smoothies, I've probably eaten a little over 2,000-3,000 raw eggs in my life, and I'm still here, never gotten salmonella.
Right.
Build up that immunity. Now, I wouldn't have done that personally in my sickest phase. I waited till I got a little bit better, and I got some gut stuff under control. But now we have to, once we get to at least stable part of health, we need to start rebuilding then and letting our body get exposed to some things that it would have before. I mean, to your point, Janet, there's whole studies on showing that autoimmunity is significantly higher in countries that have access to sanitation. And it's bittersweet because sanitation has also been very shown to be the reason that we don't have a lot of serious bacterial diseases anymore. So it's all a balance game, right? Because there's pros and cons to everything, and it's just trying to get the best of both worlds to the ability that we're able.